The Big 12 Experience, Arizona Wildcats 2024 team preview on the Sports Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win 325 times your entry with the new Pick 8 Challenge. Use that promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $250 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Build your own betting model using their AI betting engine today. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is a sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. And welcome, everybody, to the Big 12 College Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, Tuesday, July 16th. And you know what time it is. Team preview season is upon us. But first, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. And joining me, you guys know, we're talking Big 12 football. So we got to have this guy on, because he's got a family civil war in Stillwater, Waco, Fort Worth, alongside in Orlando, Cincinnati, everywhere in the Big 12. You guys know him as a green mowing, weed growing Big 12 guru, Troy Tuning. What's up, man?
And I might be in the market for an Arizona lady here, at any point in time. Talent's pretty good out there, so wouldn't be settling, let's just say that. But it's very nice to get into the team previews and not be talking fluffy fluff bullshit. We actually get to talk about football, Mac.
I know. It's refreshing, and we were talking about a pre-episode how fired up we are with this league. This is fun because we're going to welcome in a new member here. Arizona Wildcats fans tuning in. We do this for every single team. So Arizona State fans, ones that are tuning in, we will do one for you guys next, actually, on Thursday. So we will do one for every team. Real quick, before we dive into what Arizona did in the offseason, some of the headlines, we'll go game by game, and honestly predict what we think this team will ultimately do. I got to talk about the Sports Gambling Podcast because college football is here with their conference previews. Go check out that. Tune in wherever you get your podcasts on the SGPN app today. All righty, Troy Tuning, let's get into it and talk Arizona Wildcats, and shout out to our guy David, who is an Arizona Wildcat fan himself. The Arizona Wildcats come over from the Pac-12 to the Big 12 off a hell of a year last year. Jeb Fish, no longer the head coach there. He goes to Washington. He leaves after they go 10-3 last year. They win the Alamo Bowl. They beat Oklahoma. It was a great night for the future Big 12 with Arizona getting it done over the Oklahoma Sooners in the state of Texas. Troy, I want to turn it to you because I know you're really high on this team. Before we go game by game, break down just your overall outlook on this program as they head from the Pac-12 to the Big 12 off a great year last year.
Well, one of the biggest things that stands out to me, not necessarily just from last year, but all of these other head coaches that have taken a job at, Washington's a hell of a program, especially now being in the Big Ten and coming off of a national championship appearance. All these other coaches have gotten, a large amount of their players to transfer with them to their new location, whereas seems like everybody kind of stayed at Arizona knowing maybe they've got something special, but again, we're still just kind of like looking from the outside before we see anything play. But that's kind of impressive to see that the kids wanted to stay with the program and maybe go into the Big 12, regardless of getting a new coach and whatnot. That stands out to me. Not a lot of these programs have been able to keep those guys unless you've seen obviously Alabama's going to keep some people because they're still Alabama without Nick Saban being there. But if he would have gone to a different school, I bet you a bunch of those recruits would have gone with him. I don't know. It just stands out very big. A team that I mean, they were inches away from 13-0 last year, but they were the same amount of inches away from maybe like 7-5 or 6-6.
Yep.
What was the quarterback before Fifita? Deloria,
yeah, that lost to Mississippi
Jaden Delora.
State. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that Mississippi State game they could have won. The Washington and USC games where Fifita had just come in and taken the reins, they could have won all 3 of those games. But like I said before, they could have lost to Colorado. They could have lost that game to Stanford. And they barely eked out the win against Oregon State. So they're inches from maybe in the college football playoff or inches from the Holiday Bowl. So again, it's a lot of momentum. They were able to obviously win 10 games and have a very impressive bowl game to close out the year, keep all the guys around. I do think Brennan bringing Dino Babers back to be the offensive coordinator, 20 years after he had the job here as offensive coordinator for Arizona back in the 90s. Probably a pretty smart move. But I mean, we'll get into it later. There's one glaring issue that Dino Babers had at Syracuse that is probably the most important thing for Arizona going forward. And I'm sure we'll get into that when we get into more of the specifics. But I'm just high on the team because of the amount of talent they return and the fact that the talent is in today's game of football. You got a quarterback and a wide receiver that know everything about each other. It's really going to bail you out of a lot of situations.
And they have offensive line continuity. That's another thing. They bring back 4 starters on the offensive line. Let's get right.
I think they will have to switch one from guard to tackle, but even then, I mean, 4 starters that have played college football that's plenty to go off of to continue the momentum forward, I would think.
Yeah. And I think you touch on it, and those watch on youtube.com/college experience. Their over-under win total is set 8.5, 14-1 to win the Big 12 in their inaugural year, 75-1 to win the Natty. The main reason, and you usually don't see this like you talked about with the new head coach, but the main reason why that this win total is so high and people are high on this team is because of the quarterback. And Fifita, what he was able to do last year in the last, what did he end up starting? 8-9 games coming on in relief. Coming onto the scene, he was really electric. He's the reason why. If you're high on Arizona, it's because you're a buy-in on Noah Fifita, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last year, and just completely elevated everybody around him. Troy, I know you're the biggest Fifita guy so far as we've kind of talked Heisman futures. You gave him out as one of your Heisman long shots. But just talk about this offense led by Fifita.
Well, even in the media days, Coach Brennan was talking about how their goal as an offense is to make big, game-changing, exciting plays. Mm-hmm. This is not going to be like watching Kansas State play football. No shot at Avery Bradley or anything like that with his playmaking ability. Just in general, the way that they call plays, you're going to get 2 or 3 times as many downfield shots from this Arizona team as you usually see. I would almost think it's going to be because, Noah Fifita is not really a scrambler. He's definitely not a runner. I mean, he can kind of change his angles and whatnot to get the pass off, but he's going to want to throw the ball and move the ball with his arm. This team's going to look a lot like those Texas Tech teams under Coach Leach, where I wouldn't be surprised to see Fifita throw the ball 45 times a game on average. Not that they bring in a great recruit or a great transfer to help their running game from New Mexico, and they should be able to run the ball okay with their offensive line returning and all that, but you got to take advantage of such a talented arm. I mean, I think he had 72 or 73% completion rate last year, just one of the most accurate guys in the game. And he seems to be the reason why everybody stayed too. Like, he seems to be the catalyst as to why a bunch of the guys decided to stay when they changed coaches. So you've got yourselves a leader that you can trust to be accurate. I think they're going to take advantage of that as much as humanly possible. And we know that he's got Tat McMillan, who I think is probably your Biletnikoff winner if they have any kind of like 8 or more wins season. As long as everything doesn't go to shit, he'll probably have 1,700 receiving yards and 12 to 15 touchdowns. I would not be surprised to see him at least on that top 3 list for the best wide receiver in college football. But the biggest issue is hopefully the offensive line continuity can help, but they've got to pass protect. If they're going to use Noah Fifita the way that they want to, they have to pass protect. And Dino Babers wasn't too good at it at Syracuse. Offensively, they were not the best at keeping the quarterback upright. Arizona allowed 30 sacks last year, which not the greatest, but if you look at 2022, they allowed 43 sacks. So it seems to be going in the right direction. Hopefully they can keep it together with a new coaching staff, but they're going to have to pass protect significantly better. And they're going to be playing a bunch of teams that have good defensive continuity right off the bat. I mean, they go that non-conference conference game at Kansas State, then they get a bye week, and then they got to go to Utah to open their conference play. We'll find out real quick right then if they can pass protect or not.
Yep. And great transition into my next question. I'm going to make a bold take right here. I think they upgraded coaches. I think Brent Brennan's a better coach than Jedd Fisch. I think he's more proven. I think Jedd Fisch was able to catch lightning in a bottle with Fifita and McMillan on that second half of the year. I know he was part of the success, but I like the way Brennan built that San Jose program from the bottom, the complete barrel bottom, 2 wins, 1 wins when he got there. That place was a dump. And then he was able to flip it basically into a 7-win consistent. I mean, their best year was 2020. They basically ran the table there. Last year, 6-2 in Mountain West play. They should have played for the league title. Long term, I think Arizona upgraded their coach. What's your thoughts on Brennan coming over from San Jose to the Arizona Wildcats?
So San Jose was the team that didn't get to play in the conference title because they did it by coin flip for a 3-way tie, right?
Yeah, it was
like
some
Boise
bullshit.
State got in instead of them, even though they beat them or something like that.
It was some bullshit tiebreaker to get you on a VM. Yeah.
In order to compete at a place like San Diego State, you've got to be
San Jose
State. You've got
San Diego
to be,
State's a good job. Yeah.
Still kind of the same. Like moving up to a school like Arizona, I think would be pretty similar in terms of you've got to be pretty creative of a coach to succeed with a talent base that's not anything like what he has now at Arizona. I do think Jedd Fisch, David, our resident Arizona fan, mentioned that, he is going to get credit for bringing in some top recruits, but it feels like just from a X's and O's perspective, they made the switch at the perfect time. They got everything possible they could get out of Jedd Fisch to, kickstart the program and get some energy and hype going. And then you move to an X's and O's guys when you've got a stacked, loaded team, and you hope that, maybe that's the difference in those 3 close games that you lost. Maybe you eke out 1 or 2 more of those and you're sitting there with 10 wins at the end of the year. Your name's going to be in contention for a 12-team playoff. I don't necessarily think it's a lock for you to go, but I feel like the schedules in the Big 12 is going to start to surprise people once we get to the 5th and 6th weeks of the year. And it's going to be the perfect time for UCF to go in and beat Florida right when all the other league play has, 2 weeks of time going into it. People starting to say, wow, blah, blah, blah is a little stronger than we thought, I think if you win 10 games, you're going to be in the conference title. I don't know if there's going to be anybody that runs the table.
Nobody's running the table this year. I'm with you.
And I think that might apply to not just Big 12 football. That's just going to be football in the country. But, man, the schedule, when I look at it, just does not do them any favors. I do think they upgraded a coach. Hopefully that gets them over the hump in a couple of these spots. If you're an Arizona fan, maybe Fifita is significantly better as a sophomore, which would be insane, actually. He would certainly be on the Heisman shortlist if he takes a step forward from where he was last year. But I mean, they're just going to need all these teams that are going to want to make their conference titles in these bigger conferences now are going to need a couple of those like Crabtree style plays to win games. You're going to need at least 1 or 2 of those throughout the year. just some unexpected big play that changes everything in your favor. And I kind of side with a team that has as much talent as Arizona. Just there's more guys on the field that are going to have the opportunity to make that play. And I don't know. They just feel like they have everything going in the right direction right now. And I do think a lot of that has to do with Brennan's whole, like, very forward thinking. Let's adapt before, like, let's be prepared for both ways that a team can adjust to us before they even adjust. Like, we don't need to be reactionary. We need to be proactive. And I mean, I like their team makeup. I think they're a little disrespected on the defensive side of the ball too.
Let's get into that on the other side real quick. We got to talk about Pick 8 now live, and you got to get over there. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. Go check out at Troy Tuning on Twitter right now. He just put out his All-Star break underdog lineup. I think it's a 38-1 spicy special there.
Yeah, it's like 37-1 spicy special, and the first leg is already a guarantee because it's higher than half of a pitch for Paul Skeens. So
that's a winner.
Yeah, you're off to a good start. At least you're going to get one leg.
So get on over there. Check out Troy's Twitter page. We're going to be giving out a underdog Big 12 lineup every week this year. So, and they also just introduced best ball on the college football front. So get on over there, and you got to use the promo code right above my damn head. Where's it at? Right here. TCESGPN to get that promo. And they will special pick and first time deposit offer up to $250 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Circus Sports is back better than ever, giving away $16 million guaranteed in prizes. Pick 5 NFL games ATS each week and compete for $6 million over there for the gauntlet with a $10 million prize. Sign up today at Circus Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy from anywhere. We even have a deal with the football contest proxy.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP, and get on over there this weekend here in 5 weekends, August 22nd through 24th with Ryan and Sean. They'll be there at the best sports book in America, Circa Sports, Circa Millions. All righty, baby. Let's get into it, and we're not going to go game by game yet. That's here in a little bit. I want to talk real quick about just the guys that came in, guys that went out, what's coming back. The Arizona Wildcats, we talked about 10-3. They basically ran the table down the stretch after that USC loss. The game that they should have won when Fifita took over. He took over his first 2 games, and then they ran the table. Phil Steele, experience rank, has him 84th. Bill Conley, production, 28th. So good experience that's coming back, a.k.a. Fifita and McMillan. They got 13 starters back, 7 on offense, 6 on defense. So kind of middle of the pack. Troy, just your overall, we've talked about Fifita. He's the horse. He's a Heisman dark horse for a reason. He's a stud. He's a badass. And McMillan's really good as well. I know he was banged up. He's coming off an injury. We talked about Brennan, the transition. We think he could be good long-term. But speak to the rest of this roster coming in, offense, defense, and what are your thoughts?
Well, the actual best player that'll probably be the best prospect is neither McMillan nor Fifita on this team. It's their cornerback, Tacario Davis. Had like 15 or 16 pass breakups last year. Really, really good. Probably could have transferred anywhere and decided to stay. But they're loaded on the back end. They return 3 safeties. They get Dalton Johnson, Gunner Maldonado, and Tre'Dan Stukes back. All pretty good in both coverage. They're better tacklers than they are coverage guys. But when you've got a shutdown cornerback, it kind of helps to get one of those safeties up in the box. And especially when you're going to start off the season going Kansas State by Utah, you're probably going to have somebody in that box that is ready to get down and dirty and fuck people up. But between Jacob Manu and Justin Flo, their little linebacker duo, I know Justin Flo was a really, really high recruit that went to Oregon and then transferred to Arizona, I think, in 22. Kind of had an injury and whatnot. He seems like a good bet for a guy that will kind of come out of nowhere as a defensive, not necessarily a star, but kind of a stalwart specifically for Arizona. If those two guys can, plug gaps and tackle guys, again, the defense is not going to be asked to play like Michigan's defense last year. They're going to have a little bit of room for error in hopes that the offense can pick that slack up, which is always fun to play for a defense that some of those Oklahoma State years, their defense would be, giving up a pretty good amount of yards, like middle of the pack in yards allowed, but they would force 35 turnovers in a 12-game season. And when you're a defense that, you come out and you see the offense score a touchdown on the first 2 drives of the game, you're pretty freed up to be a little more aggressive and maybe try to make some plays that aren't just your typical, tackle, get them down, bend, don't break defense. Let's try to jump some routes and punch some balls out. But they're definitely going to need a bit of an attitude adjustment, I think, coming over to the Big 12. Kind of like what Gus Malzahn said for UCF. It's not a 7-on-7 league. Especially
up front. Up front.
The D-line scares me for sure.
Yeah, 4 new starters. I mean, they lost their whole D-line. I think they lost 7 out of their top 8 rotational pieces on the D-line. Their linebacking core, I'm with you. I like, especially Justin Flo. I think he's really good, and I like their secondary. But I worry about, can they hold up in the trenches on the defensive side? Offensive, I like that they bring back 4 offensive lineman starters with a veteran quarterback and veteran wide receiver. One thing that could be a little concerning is they did lose their number 2 and number 3 receivers in McMillan, but McMillan is still pretty damn good where he's going to be able to get open, and his chemistry with Fifita is so good that I don't think that they're going to miss a beat.
Yeah, those two, that's not the ones that you need to worry about. I would hope that with McMillan out on the field, everybody else is going to get a little more space. As long as you can get a couple of like fast, twitchy guys, they should be able to work themselves open pretty easily the defense, every play of every year for every team they play is going to be all looking at McMillan and Fifita the whole time. No matter what you do, you have to. I mean, what they want to do. It's not like basketball where you can, we're going to let that guy get his and we're going to stop everybody else. Well, you're going to lose if you do that with McMillan. He'll go for 250 and 3 touchdowns on you. So the amount of attention they have to pay to McMillan should kind of counteract the fact that the other receivers are going to be filled in by, new faces and whatnot. But you're still just hoping that guys can catch the ball when the quarterback puts it right in between their fucking numbers. And if nothing else fails, if you get guys that just catch the ball and fall on the ground, that's going to be enough to where McMillan can get himself open for some big plays and really stretch the field. I do want to say getting the Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt transfer from New Mexico was gigantic. I mean, he ran for almost 1,200 yards and 17 touchdowns last year for New Mexico. That's a huge get. He's not a bad pass catcher out of the backfield. They're just loaded. When you look at everything, they're loaded. You look at every single thing all the way up until you check out the schedule. You're like, man, this team really has a shot. Man, this team, 8.5 wins might seem a little low. And then you take a look at the schedule. And I'm sure that's where we were headed next, but not a cakewalk for these Wildcats.
No, and real quick, let's hit our last ad so we get paid. We're brought to you by Rhythm. Betting on player props. Download Rhythm today. The algorithm using platforms that combine predictive analytics with their user experience, making both easy and enjoyable. Got the best models out there. You're going to want this as we head into college football season. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. All righty, so we've talked about it. We love Fifita. We like the coaching change. We like the secondary. We like the offensive line. Overall, we like the team. Now, I can say I don't really like their schedule. But in fairness to them, I don't like a lot of these Big 12 teams scheduled because I think this league is so balanced and so competitive that it's just going to be a shit show. And I think that's why that over under 8.5 is kind of perfectly placed, to be honest, for these guys. 14-1 to win the Big 12, 75-1 to win the national championship. I think this year we went game by game last year. We'll still go game by game, but I think we could do more so like quads as well, or sections of the schedule. They opened against Bronco Mendenhall and the New Mexico Lobos, their first game. They're going to be like a 5-touchdown, 4-touchdown favorite. And then they have Northern Arizona week 2. I'm assuming we both have them at 2-0 in blowout fashion both times.
Yeah, I have them at 2-0 in, I guess you could consider it blowout fashion, but nowadays in college, we just call it Heisman stat padding.
Yeah, I like that. So then this is where it gets good. They're 2-0. Then they're going to go to a Big 12 road game. That's not a Big 12 road game because it's not a Big 12 conference game. Sorry. It's a Big 12 road game. That's not a conference game. They're going to go to the cream of the crop, the standard in this league, and that's Kansas State on the road. And we're going to Friday the 13th, Fox, primetime. This is a perfectly placed game for Arizona to have a chance on the national stage, as well as K-State, the new Big 12. This is great. This is a genius scheduling strategy by your mark in the Big 12, getting this on Friday primetime on Fox. Arizona fans, I love you, and I'm happy you're part of the league. Kansas State's going to win this game. It's in the Little Apple.
Yeah, I have this one as a loss for Arizona as well. As high as I am on their team, this seems like a really good spot to get a loss. You go play a grit and grind team. You kind of get your first look at how the Big 12 is going to be for some of these favorites that we've talked about in the top of the league that are, transitioning back to this smash mouth style. Not necessarily K-State. They never transferred away from it, but just as a whole for the league. I don't see them winning this game on the road. If this was in Arizona, I would give them a way bigger shot. But going to the Little Apple on Friday the 13th, you can chalk that shit up. They lose this game and they go into the bye, and they really make some adjustments here.
Yeah,
to become a little bit stronger of a team, maybe a little more poundy of a team, because they're going to come out of the bye and they're going to go to Utah and they're going to win that game.
Yeah, they're not beating Utah in Utah.
That's going to be the adjustment.
Okay,
they get to lose a Big 12 game without losing a Big 12 game, and it's going to change their whole schedule for the whole year.
I will say for Arizona fans, Utah is not coming off a bye. They're in Stillwater the week before. So that's a plus. But I'm not betting against Utah in Salt Lake City. So give me Utes. I got them at 2-2. You got them at 3-1. They come home after that. They got Texas Tech, and then they're at BYU the next week. Do you think they win both of these?
I think the Texas Tech matchup is a little bit easier for them to win in terms of their strength at linebacker, and in the defensive back area will help them a lot more against Texas Tech than it will against BYU. So I have them beating Texas Tech, and I do have them beating BYU, but I think that one's going to be kind of interesting. On the road at Lavelle Edwards.
Yeah.
Going to be kind of weird.
I just looked. I got them beating Tech, and then I think they lose at BYU. BYU is off a bye before that game. So regroup at home. So you got them at
5-1 now.
Yeah, 5-1. I got them at 3-3. I had a sense that we were going to differ on Arizona a little bit. Back-to-back home games here. Colorado, West Virginia. They're beating Colorado.
They almost lost to them last year.
Yeah, but
that was on the road.
That was in Boulder, correct?
Yeah. I believe.
Yep. 34-31. They're going to beat Colorado, though.
I think West Virginia gets them.
You do?
I think West Virginia gets them in Arizona.
I'll say
I feel like that one comes down to who has the ball last.
I should right here. David said, when you come into Tucson, I need to get out there. I would love to come out for that October 26th. You know what? I'll say they beat West Virginia because the game's in Tucson. I hope I'm wrong. Reverse psychology. Butter up the enemy, make them feel good, and then go in there and beat their ass and say, "Man, you guys got a hell of a program."
That's what you guys always do. You hand out the moonshine in the fucking parking lot. You get everybody all blasted, exactly. And then you start beating the shit out of them in the third quarter of the football game when they're too drunk to fight back.
If they don't have their D-line figured out by then, the Mountaineers could run all over them. But I'll say it evens out here. I gave them a loss at BYU, so I'll give them a win against West Virginia. So I got him at 3 losses. You got him at 2 losses. This is a big game right here at UCF, but headed into the second bye. So each team has 2 byes, everybody, by the way, at UCF.
I think UCF wins this game.
I do too.
I think this is a Heisman showdown here where KJ takes his step forward. I don't know how. I mean, Arizona's a better team. The bounce house obviously is going to have – it'll be pretty fucking pumped for that game, especially if Arizona only has 2 losses or even 3 losses coming into town.
Yep.
I don't know. UCF at home is – they're starting to realize their spot in the Big 12, it seems like. It seems like Gus is starting to get a nice feel for a different league and what he has to kind of slightly change. It feels like if Brennan was around for a year or 2 already, I would take him here. But for the same reason that there was away games that I thought UCF could win last year, but first year in the league, kind of figuring it out, I think UCF gets him here.
And Tim's talking about the jet lag. This is a far trip. This is their first trip making the way all the way to the bounce house. Yeah, I got UCF as well. So that automatically puts me at the under headed into the second bye at 5-4. You got them at 6-3. They finish Houston at TCU, Arizona State.
I think that's where you hit your over at exactly 9 wins.
9-3. I had them winning their last. I think I had them winning their last 3 coming down the stretch. TCU's the toss up. That game will come down to the wire. So I got him at 8-4. You got him at 9-3. The over-under's at 8.5. We split the difference. Troy, I like this part of it. I like to lay out worst case scenario and best case scenario. What's your worst case scenario for this team? Like we talked about what our concerns are. Probably the trenches. Is there a world where the trenches fall apart and they really struggle in the month of October and November down the stretch?
I would say the worst case scenario would be Colorado beats them in that home game. Regardless of what happens before. Now, they would obviously have to be, if for some reason they go on the road and beat either Kansas State or Utah, then I don't know if the trenches is too big of a worry for them. But I do think either that Texas Tech or that Colorado game, if they slip up in one of those 2 spots, it could be like if they lose that Colorado game, I could see them going West Virginia, UCF, 3 in a row losses.
Yeah.
And that could be detrimental.
Colorado, though.
I don't think so either, but that's the one that you're not looking for. They were so close last year. They're kind of like it's not a new team that you're playing in the league. They're 2 newcomers, but they play each other every year. I don't know. It seems like a little bit of bad blood. Maybe a bit more of a rivalry now that we're in the Big 12 and football actually matters, unlike the West Coast.
I like looking at this too. They got kind of a shit schedule in terms of getting teams off bye. I didn't realize TCU in that second to last week has a bye week
late bye beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know sometimes the bye week can work in the other way, but I like the bye week late because, I think the bye week late is beneficial because.
Well, now most guys are getting 2, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Their ones the most late. Like they have one early. Everybody has two, but their second one is by far the latest because there's only 2 games after that. I just think rest advantage late in the year does matter because just how physical this league is. So they get TCU and BYU on the road coming off bye weeks. That's going to be hard to get both of those games. It's going to be hard to get one of those games. So I think
the BYU one scares me more. I think the TCU off a bye is dangerous because it's on the road, but they get a bye before Houston, so it'll only be one game before they get back to TCU.
Worst case scenario, I would say 6-6. I can't see them go. All right, if Fifita blows out his knee and he's out for the year, then they could go like 3-9. But
you said it, not me.
Yeah, well, I'm not wishing that, obviously, but like everybody goes, oh, they could go 3-9 if Fifita got hurt. Yes, I'm acknowledging that. If Fifita has some awful injury, they could completely shit the bed. I'm saying barring no season-ending injuries, I think that they worst case scenario 6-6 just with how much talent they have at the skill positions and the veteran offensive line. Best case scenario, can this team get to the playoff?
I mean, if they beat K-State and Utah on the road with a bye in between,
that's a tall task.
Hell yeah, it's a tall task.
Can they get one?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Even if they get one of the two, it'll still be somewhat impressive as long as the other one's not a complete blowout. Like if they lose to Kansas State by a touchdown and then beat Utah by a field goal, that'll still be pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
So I would think, I mean, that's going to be a lot of momentum to hold throughout the year. And then especially with those games being so early, either one would put a target on their back that they're going to have to deal with, BYU off a bye, West Virginia, UCF, TCU off of a bye, and they're all going to have that game now circled, especially if the win happens to be Kansas State. Now, I see that much less likely than Utah, but for a newcomer to come in and for all intents and purposes in a league matchup, beat the team that we consider the cream of the crop would be very head-turning, I think. I do think they could get to the playoff. I think if they win the Big 12, they're in the playoff. I think if they go 9-3, there's a chance that they're in the Big 12 championship game.
Agree.
I think the smarter bet than the over-under on the win total is to take the 14-1 to win the league. So I think if they hit the over on the win total, they're going to have a pretty good chance of being in the championship game. All I got to do is win one more game.
I was going to say, we're going to make a fucking case that you should take a stab on everybody's future in this league outside of the favorites, because this is the Big 12. It don't go chalk in this league, everybody. Oklahoma State was in the Big 12 title game at 40-1 last year. K-State was 12-1 the year before that. OK State and Baylor the year before that. Baylor was like 50-1 the year that they won. They came out of nowhere. Iran is still hired because of that, because of that run. But Troy, I think best case is 10-2. I can't see them going 3-1 and on the road in these atmospheres. K-State, Utah, BYU, and UCF. Those are hard.
And TCU.
And TCU. That's to go
even 3-2. Even 3-2 would be pretty impressive out of that, I think.
3-2. I think you win the Big 12 game, or I guess no shit, Ryan. If you win the Big 12 title game, you're automatically in the playoff. But I was going to say that even if they had 2 losses, I think that you could make a case. Even though I know this is going to be an SEC Big 10 bias bracket, but 10-2 best case, 6-6 worst case. I split the difference at 8-4. You're at 9-3. You're on the over. I'm on the under, even though I like this team. And then you think you should sprinkle 14-1 to win the Big 12. And you also took Fifita. I think we both did. We both said Fifita's worth a stab at. What are his odds to win the Heisman? David, throw this in the chat.
45-1 or something, wasn't it?
Heisman futures.
50-1 or something like that.
Where's our guy, Noah Fifita? 40-1. Yeah. Make sure you shop around because on some books he's like 18-1 and 20-1. There's a book that he's 40-1 as well. So make sure you do shop around and get the best because that's a big difference there. So, all right, man, 8-4, 9-3. We split the difference. This was fun. I am so glad that this is back. Arizona fans, if you want to tune in on Thursday, same time, we're gonna be talking about your favorite Sun Devils.
We promise to not do the classic. We'll make a bet on the over and make a bet on the under, and then only screenshot the one that hits. We definitely promise to not do that.
We would never do that. Troy, any final thoughts other than you're just fired up that we're talking team previews and Big 12 football?
Fired up. Before Thursday's episode, I will do a college football best ball lineup for everybody on Underdog. Specifically great to do now before everybody has their season-ending injuries in camp before the season even starts. But hey, I would not be surprised to see Noah Fifita on that best ball team.
Oh, absolutely. Even if you like the under, like me, I mean, he's going to put.
I'll try to do one with only Big 12 guys in best ball and see how it performs against the rest of the leagues this year.
Well, dude, once upon a time that used to be the formula because it used to be
get wideouts and quarterbacks from the Big 12 and just spank everyone.
It's more of a physicality league now, though, with Oklahoma State, K-State, and Utah being the cream of the crop and just the way that they play football. But hey, there's plenty of good quarterbacks in this league, plenty of good running backs. Who knows where expansion will go next year? But as of now, we got D16, and we love having our Arizona Wildcats as the first team in the alphabet that we will preview this Big 12 offseason. Guys, we are nearing the start of the season. Make sure you subscribe and like all our channels. Go check out the College Football Experience with Colby. He's doing all 134 teams. I think he touches on the Big 12 maybe next week or the following week. You'll see me, Troy, Rush on that show as well throughout the Big 12 previews. Go check out the FCS Experience. Northern Arizona fans, you're on the schedule. Go check out that, you Lumberjack fans. And College Basketball Experience, Arizona basketball. That's a fucking blue blood. Get on over there. We're talking it all year long. Happy to have another blue blood to challenge those fairies in Lawrence. Let's go Wildcats. Who needs Kansas when we got Arizona? So love having Arizona part of this league. I think I've said that 1,000 times, but I truly do mean it. I love the state of Arizona. Look forward to getting to Tucson to check out some football, check out some basketball, and go check out the College Baseball Experience. Arizona's good at baseball too with Noah Beanick. We all come together on youtube.com/the college experience. He is at Troy Tuning. I'm at Moneyline_Mac. We are the Big 12 Experience. We'll see you Thursday, and we are out of here. Go Wildcats.
Any state that lets you open carry and walk up to order chimichanga